What would you think was your biggest take from attending business school?
Listen, like I think in life, it's not necessarily what you know, but the people that are there with you. And you're right. When you walk out of school, you don't know how to run a business. Like that's not the skill set you walk away with. But what you do get is you get friends and contacts and colleagues that actually have a specialty in a variety of different industries and sectors. Like you're doing something completely different, our other friends are doing something completely different, and we can leverage each other's knowledge to really complete that circle. So if there's something that I do not know, I've often gone to some of my friends and said, hey, could you help me with marketing? Or could you teach me this? Or how did you do this with your business? And I think those are the most important things that you walk away with from business school in particular, because of all the work that you have to do in groups and the presentations and the projects.
Welcome to theBLOcounsel, where we talk about everything personal development and business development.
So, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Blow Council Conversations. Like we always do, we have valuable conversations with entrepreneurs and professionals who have properly cut their teeth in their respective fields of expertise, so that we can learn from their knowledge and experience to better our own selves, better our relationships, better our careers, and ultimately, better our lives in general. Today, I have a special guest who is joining us from New York to share her amazing journey as a career woman before now venturing into entrepreneurship, where our company now helps professionals to elevate their careers by providing them with the right strategies and the right skills and the right network so they can achieve long-term career success. I'd call her a one-in-town career matchmaker. In addition to that, she's also an executive coach, a former bank manager in one of the biggest banks in Canada, and currently a principal consultant at Unoya. I hope I pronounced that correctly. She's also one of the most caring and accommodating people that I know. So, without letting the entire cat out of the bag, please help me welcome Miss Rosey Singh to the Blow Council today. And thank you, Rosie, for joining us today.
Thank you, Baba, for having me. I'm really excited to have this conversation with you.
Yes, great. So, would like for us to, dive in straight in before we even talk about you. I was reading a blog post that you wrote about making mistakes at work, and it was super insightful for me because there was one part, and I'm going to quote your own words. You said that the ultimate lesson about making mistakes at work is that your response matters more than the mistake itself. And I felt this deeply because, as someone who is in a leadership role, I know that responses matter, not just in business, but in life generally, how you respond to things. So I'm curious, what key things should a leader take into consideration before responding to work mistakes made by their employees? And on the other side, what things should an employee take into consideration before responding to, work mistakes that they make at the workplace? I would like us to start the conversation from there.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, there's a few things that go into from the employers, like from a manager or leader's perspective, is to kind of consider the type of culture we're trying to create. So if we want an innovative culture where we're pushing our boundaries and trying to really stay ahead of the curve, then mistakes are going to be made. I
Sure.
mean, even if you have a very safe culture, mistakes are going to be made because no, regardless, we are humans, and as humans, we make mistakes. So I think
Sure.
one of the things is as a leader to really think about, okay, we've got the kind of culture we're trying to create. We're trying to stay relevant in our business, in our industry. Are we trying to forge ahead? Are we trying to make a mark and not become stagnant? So that's definitely the one case, major thing to consider. The other part I think that's important to consider is the person that's your employee or the people that are part of the team that are making the mistake, right? So really taking a look at the mistake itself. Was it a careless mistake? Is it a life or death mistake? Is it going to cost us money? Is it going to cost us money to fix this mistake? So I can tell you personally, I have made so many mistakes, never repeated them, but I have made those mistakes. And those mistakes were very valuable to making sure that I then didn't repeat them. I didn't, I learned from them, I grew from them, and then I was a better manager or leader or HR representative or now an entrepreneur because of those mistakes. But you know what, unfortunately, I've been in positions where my managers have both supported me and helped me learn through the mistake. I've also been in situations where my manager came down really hard on me. And in that article that you're talking about, I talk about where the manager or actually executive or CEO tore us apart in the middle of an all staff, and it really wasn't justified. It wasn't warranted, right? Like we don't admonish people in public. We do it in private. If there's a mistake you make, you really want to think about time, place, the kind of culture you're trying to set. As an employee, though, I think we all come into work wanting to do a really good job. I don't think anybody wants to come into work to not do a good job. And so when we do make that mistake, I think one of the most important things is to own that mistake, right? So sit with it and say, you know what, I did make the mistake. Don't try to cover it up. Don't try to make it worse. Have a conversation with the people that you think could help you fix it. But be honest and understand your part in it, and try not to place blame on others, and try to focus more on like what your part of it was in the mistake, and then take it from there and slowly work through it, because it can be really hard on the ego and on the mind and the heart.
True.
And so we want to just take a second. Again, if we're not saving lives, is it really that big of a deal?
Exactly.
So yeah.
That makes sense. So and I'm thinking, just by listening to your response, I'm thinking, there must be a role that the environment, the culture in the workplace would probably play in how the employees and even the leader themselves respond to such mistakes when they happen. How would you and I'm just want us to have the conversation around how you think, and this is for the leaders really, how a leader can drive the type of culture that would encourage the employees being free enough to be able to respond properly when they make mistakes at work. How does a leader encourage, or what type of culture should a leader encourage in order to achieve this type of thing?
Yeah, so look, I think the world, as it always has, but ever more so now, is changing, right? With AI, with the political environment, there's so many extenuating factors that are causing our businesses to shift. It's forcing us to be different. It's forcing us to be fast. It's forcing us to be innovative.
True.
We can't afford to be stagnant. And so you really have to understand that. I think one of the things, Baba, you and I would know this, is business acumen is very, very important.
Yes.
Unfortunately, a lot of leaders don't have business acumen, right? What goes into a good business decision? What is actual strategy? How do we want to move the needle forward? And letting go of our own personal ego as leaders is really move our organizations forward. If our organizations are the ones paying us a salary, we owe our loyalty to that organization. We owe our commitment to that organization. And so our commitment there really has to come in as a leader. It's I, as a leader, am also being paid by this organization, and I owe it to this company to move it forward.
Yes.
And so really understanding that we cannot be what we were yesterday. We have to move things forward. So that's one of the big things I would think. I also think, though, as a leader, you really have to think about the kind of leader you want to be. And it actually surprises me that a lot of people don't sit down and think about what kind of leader do I want to be? What does it mean to be a leader? What is the sentiment that I want people to walk away with when they meet me or when they speak to me, when I'm leading them through the trenches? How do I want them to feel? And most people don't give it that. They just kind of go into that mode and they just start doing. But I think there's, just like everything else, you have to plan. I want to be this kind of leader. I want to learn. I want to grow. I want to be able to make my own mistakes, and learn from them. And then the second part is like I want to bring other people along in this journey. So those are,
Okay, that makes
a few
sense.
key things, and we can definitely go into deeper into things. I've got so many thoughts on each different component.
That makes sense. That makes sense, Rosie. And I think what I got from that is that even as a leader, you have to plan being a leader. You can't just wake up one day and run into leadership. You also have to consciously plan, that leadership. And I appreciate you mentioning that. So let's bring it down a little, just for the sakes of our audience that
Yeah.
we'll be meeting for the first time. So I wanted to kind of like give us a little bit of your background. Tell us about you. Yeah, and feel free to say as much as you want to say. How you got to where you are. Maybe the type of schools you've gone through. What has made Rosie the Rosie that we know today. Yeah, just tell us about you.
Yeah. So for me, I mean, I'm the oldest of three, and I think having that big sister um, responsibility from the beginning has been one of the things that shaped me in terms of who I am, and the kind of person that I want to be known for. I spent most of my career in banking. I spent 13 years in banking. Always working my way up, right? I was very ambitious from the beginning. I always wanted to make a mark. I wanted to really do something different with my life. I didn't want to just be something. I wanted to be more than that. And I always knew that, there was something more out there for me, but I kept getting promoted, and I thought maybe the next position would be the one that really hit my heart, or maybe, maybe if I made more money, or maybe if I worked here, or maybe if I did all those things. I had all those conversations with me for 13 years. At the end of it, I got to a point where I realized it wasn't what I wanted, and it wasn't fulfilling my heart and my soul. And I think, a lot of people go through this where they're not happy at work, but they think that that's the only thing that like it's a safe choice, so they keep doing it. But I was listening to that voice for 13 years, and the voice never got quiet. The voice kept getting louder and louder, and then through a series of events, well timed, whether it's God or the universe, whatever you believe in. But I was forced to go to San Francisco by myself, like on a trip. My boss said, "You are exhausted. You need to take a trip. You need to take a vacation. Please go away. You've been working nonstop." And so I went to San Francisco and LA by myself, and I realized that there was a world outside of the world that I knew. And that's when I decided that I've always wanted to do my MBA, but I wanted to do it in San Francisco. And this is obviously about where you and I met at Halt, where we both got our MBAs, and we were able to create kind of a family, even though we were all alone. We didn't have family with us. And, you know, again, back to that big sister. But I think for me, I really went to Halt to change my own trajectory. I knew that I had to put myself in a very uncomfortable situation, right? Like I had my own place, I had my own car, I had my own, like my own life, a really, really fantastic job, but it wasn't enough. Like that was just like what everybody had. And what I wanted was more. I wanted a legacy, I wanted things. So anyways, I started working in San Francisco after graduation, and it was really good. And I think, again, that voice kept saying like there's something more. And then when the pandemic hit, I decided that, San Francisco really wasn't where I wanted to be. My family is actually from Toronto, so I wanted to be closer to them, and New York made the most sense. So I moved to New York. I got a job here. I moved around, kept getting promoted, the same thing as before, but that voice inside me never got quiet. And that voice inside me said, you know what, enough is enough. I've had enough good managers, I've had enough bad managers. I think it's time that you decide to go on your own. And so for me, as of a year and a little bit ago, I decided that, you know what, I was going to quit a very high paying job, an executive job in New York City, and start my own thing. And you know what, it's been very scary. There's a lot of uncertainty in my life, but at the same time, nothing has been more rewarding. And that voice that I've been talking to you about is finally quiet, because I know I'm right. Like I know I'm where I need to be.
Nice, nice, nice. So I'm assuming, and that's so interesting because when you say you wanted more, that's why you went to San Francisco, did your MBA. It looks like it's that same more that you wanted, that still pushed you into entrepreneurship. I'm assuming it's still wanting more. So do you, now that you started with entrepreneurship, do you feel like you still want more? Or, of course, I would assume.
Yeah, of course. I don't think, yeah, I don't think I'm ever gonna not want more, but I think it's different now. Like, I think what it is that there's no ceiling on my
Yeah.
head anymore.
Hmm.
So I think for me, the voice of I want more was very loud because I could only make so much money. I could only have a certain amount of title. I can only have a certain amount of impact. I only knew a certain amount of the story. The organization that I worked for only gave me so much information, and I was only able to do so much within the parameters, right? So if I was I was an HR executive for many years. So as an executive in HR, my job was HR. And so I could not influence or work in finance or work in the marketing or help with events. It was really, I was very much siloed. And don't get me wrong, there's a lot of work that I had to do. I had 200 employees underneath me. So it was very important for me to focus on the work that was given to me. But now as an entrepreneur, the more is some days I'm doing marketing, some days I'm doing my finances, other days I'm, here speaking to you. Every day is different, and so my impact is very, very broad now, and the variety that I get on a daily basis, the whole thing is my responsibility. So every single day I have to do more. Like now I have too much work to do and not enough time. So it's definitely changed. I also, again, I think really importantly, like I want to be able to impact people's lives in a very positive way, and I get to decide how I show up as a coach, as a friend, as a mentor, as someone guiding people through careers. I had to do it by myself. I didn't have anybody. Being the oldest, I didn't have anyone to guide me. So it's really important that you have people around to check you, to push you, to really help you develop.
Absolutely, and that makes sense. Entrepreneurship, and just like you said about having to wear so many hats now with marketing, and then you have to deal with the finance, and if you have procurement, you have to think of that. Sometimes I always say that, like for me, attending business school, helped me to see all of the sides of the business. What you may need to do with marketing, what you may need to do with operations and all that stuff. And just to digress a little bit, I'd like to ask this question. Your time in business school, which I was there, what would you say was the biggest takeaway from you going to business school? And I'm asking this for those who are out there who want to go to business school. And some people think if they go to business school, then that means they know everything about business already once they finish from business school. I don't know if you felt that way. I didn't feel that way after coming out.
No.
But let me let you take the floor. What would you think was your biggest take from attending business school?
My biggest takeaway without fail is my friends, like the people like you and Felipe, and all of the friends.
I could have guessed that,
relationship, right? Yeah, I mean, listen, like I think in life it's not necessarily what you know, but the people that are there with you. And you're right, when you walk out of school, you don't know how to run a business. Like that's not the skill set you walk away with. But what you do get is you get friends and contacts and colleagues that actually have a specialty in a variety of different industries and sectors. Like you're doing something completely different, our other friends are doing something completely different, and we can leverage each other's knowledge to really complete that circle. So if there's something that I do not know, I've often gone to some of my friends and said, hey, could you help me with marketing? Or could you teach me this? Or how did you do this with your business? And I think those are the most important things that you walk away with from business school in particular, because of all the work that you have to do in groups and the presentations and the projects. The other part, though, I think that from an purely academic standpoint that I really learned was strategy. So if you remember, you and I took a strategy course, and for me that really, really helped me, because I think not only was that professor really, really hard on us, he demanded a lot from us as students, but I think he also taught a really great class, and the kind of case studies we did, the kind of presentations we did, the way that he pushed us in class, at least for me, I felt very fortunate that he really made me think about strategy in a very, very different way.
Okay.
That isn't the way that I thought about it before. Does that make sense?
Okay, let's go in. I wanted to talk about your company. And I was asking, I was curious how you came about the name. It's a very unique name.
Yeah. So Eunoia means it's a Greek word, and it means beautiful mind. And I think for me, again, I think one of the things that really, when I was looking for a name for this company, I was looking for something that spoke about, like, that resonated with me from that perspective. And I think, one of the things that I believe that we all bring to the table is our beautiful mind. And I think, a lot of us, we live in fear, or we see our insecurities and our doubts and the things that we don't have, and we don't focus on the things that we do have. And I think so in my coaching, I really try to provide the kind of inspirational, motivational, like cheerleading type of coaching where, like, you can do it, right? There's not really anything that most of us cannot do with the right, training, with the right motivation, with the right experience. We can learn most things. Like, obviously, like, some things are harder. Brain surgery, being an astrophysics. Okay, fine, I understand that, right? Not to take things out of context, but I'm thinking for the most part, a lot of the things that we are able to do are within our reach. And usually the only reason we don't do them is because we don't believe that we can do it. And so really, again, I really wanted to embody something like this. And so as I was searching, I was using ChatGPT, I was looking at the dictionary, I wanted one word that said something to this effect, and that's how I came up with the name.
Name. Oh, that's cool. I really like the name actually. So, but so can you just give us an idea what you do in your company? Like just an overview of what you do.
Yeah, no, so there's a couple things that I do. Most really, I mean, it starts with my major part of the company. My goal is to help people find a new job. And now there's a lot of coaches out there that will help you with your resume and your LinkedIn. And yes, I do all of that, but I go one step further. As you are busy living your life, working, having a family, being social, doing all the things that you have to do to be an adult, I will help you apply for those jobs. I'll go through each application, customize each resume, and cover letter for each job. So if you send me, 10 jobs, Rosie, I want to apply, I'll also find those jobs for you, and I'll start to apply for you. So I'll take, because some of the things that becomes the most tedious is, like, it's a numbers game, unfortunately, especially in the United States. It's a numbers game. The more jobs you apply, the more you can increase your your likelihood of getting an interview. And so for me, it's really helping people who are busy trying to get that next job without being discouraged. So if I'm doing kind of this work with you, or I'm applying that job, you're not feeling the exhaustion from job hunting. And then when we do land an interview, because my job is to help you land an interview, your job is to get the job, my job is to get you that interview. So once we get that interview, we hop at a call, we practice, we answer questions, we do fake interviews. I've been a recruiter for a number of years, so I know what people are looking for. And from a language perspective, posture, but also what you're saying, the speed in which you're speaking, tone, pitch, intonation, all of those things collectively, I want to give you feedback and prepare you for that interview, and make sure you're not making fundamental mistakes.
Interesting. Because just like you said, there's a bunch of recruiters out there, or some people would I know of all these flex jobs and some other platforms that people go to apply. What would you say would be the difference between what you do, like the main difference between what you do and the traditional ways people seek to find jobs? What would you say would be the major difference on how you have approached it with your company?
Well, I think for me, it's really for me to help you while you're busy doing your own thing, right? So, like, the most boring part of finding a job is actually looking for the job, going on LinkedIn, going on Google, looking for the position, and then filling out the same information, copying and pasting your resume, and that sort of stuff. The other part of it is, we don't want to just apply with the same resume for every job. we want to tell a story. I talk a lot about in my content is telling a story, but the story that you as the employer want to hear, right? Because you only have 2 or 3 seconds to look at my resume to see if you're going to pass it or you're going to fail it, right? So in a couple of seconds, I need to give you exactly what you're looking for. And so it's really hard because everybody, even if you're applying for only marketing manager jobs in a specific industry, everybody's going to have different things that they value, right? Some are going to want more creative, some will want more analytics, some of them want more collaboration. So there's everything is like the way that they write job descriptions are very different in each, because everyone's different, we're all different. And so without lying or without altering who you are and the skills you bring, I want to reorder your resume and write a custom cover letter to say, hi, this is me. I'm really excited to apply for your job, not just any job, right? Because one of the things that people do is we just apply for every single job to see it. We hope for the best. And what I want people to read your resume to say, oh my God, she's applying or he's applying for my job. And they're excited about working here. And that's the difference.
Yeah, that
And you really have to
personalization touch. Yeah, I mean
yeah,
that touch of
absolutely.
personalization. I was just adding to what you were saying.
Exactly. It's a way better way of saying it. Yes.
Yeah, interesting. So, but and I'm assuming this is both. You know, of course, if for those who want virtual jobs or on-site jobs, doesn't really matter what type of job the person
No,
wants.
no, it doesn't. It's just more, I don't really deal with like fresh graduate, like people who don't have experience. Mine is more for executives or senior leaders, directors, that sort of stuff. People who have experience and are looking for, again, to push to the next level, right? We want to make more money. We want that title. We want more responsibility. We want to leave a legacy. So those are the people that I'm really working with, because this is a lot of work. And so somebody who's really carved out a niche in their industry that they want to pursue.
Makes sense. I think the reason why I asked about whether virtual or on-site, because and I'm speaking from, let me say, from a Nigerian angle now,
Mhm.
because at least I know there's many young people, even some of them who have huge experience with working in Nigeria, for example. We see a lot of people who want jobs maybe in the US, who want who are, maybe remote jobs, and then they don't have a way to find them. But I feel like there's a gap somewhere there, especially knowing fully well that there are companies in the West and the US who are probably looking for maybe contract staff or staffing because they can maybe pay lesser wages or whatever the case may be, that would be advantageous for them. And then there's people out here too who are going to be benefiting from maybe getting paid in US dollars, and by the time they exchange it in their own currency, it makes more sense than whatever they're going to get paid on this other side.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying that, but I know this is out of the scope of what you do, but do you think you may consider something like
No,
that?
I think it's the same, because I think one of the things that I realized when I was looking for a job, I'm Canadian and I was entering the US market. The markets are very similar, but they're not the same, right? So there's a lot of things that are similar, but there's also things that are very different. And I didn't know that. And I didn't have a perspective of how do I get a job in the United States? And I think, so if you're living in Nigeria, you want to work in the United States, how do you do that? The rules that are in Nigeria are not the same, the rules in the US. And so I can help you bridge those gaps. And I have a lot of clients who are actually HALT students that are actually all foreign nationals, and they're looking to get a job in the United States, and they're struggling and their time is running out. And so for me, it's about being very strategic, but knowing the rules. You and I are not going to change the rules of the game, but we need to know them and play with them, and play them smart, right? And so that's the thing, the difference between, because I'm a foreign national as well. So I understand that you have to know the different rules, but my training has been in the United States. And so helping you find a job within the United States, and then the visa situation, I've been on most of the visas. I know navigating that and having that conversation with your employer can be challenging. So I have that perspective as well.
That makes sense. Yeah, I just I just saw that possibly there could be an opportunity there for a company like yours, and like I said, I think it's more like on the virtual side of it, because I see many people are gravitating towards, oh, I want like an hybrid model type of job or full virtual job that is more like a contract job. And well, I'm sure we can, still have more conversations on that. So for what you do, how has the experience been so far? I know you said you've been on it for about a year and a half, thereabout. For
Yeah.
you, how's the journey to entrepreneurship been for you? Someone like me, I've been an entrepreneur for quite some time. So, but I'm curious to see how you're, fitting into that, your new responsibility. How's it been? Are there, challenges you've been experiencing? And
Yeah.
yeah, what has that been like?
So I want to go back to some of the things, like, after coming out of grad school, you think you know how to run a business. I didn't, right? I mean,
That's what we
setting
all
up a
think.
business.
That's what we all think when we come out until we start the business.
Yeah, I mean, you don't know how to register a business. You don't know how to, like, all the tools and the softwares and the connecting them and making sure each tool. There's so much to know. Again, the marketing, the finance, like, luckily we live in a day and age where there's a software or an app that can help us, but everything costs money. Everything, like, you don't know which one's the best. So there's a lot of things that I think has been really frustrating, but also really rewarding, because, like, once you figure it out, like, there's no better accomplishment, right? You feel like, oh my god, I actually figured this out. And I was really, just something as simple as creating a newsletter. You read that newsletter that I put out 2 weeks ago, but that took me 6 7 months of thinking about it. Not because, I mean, I didn't actually know how to write. Like, I knew how to write, but I didn't know how to put it all together. Which platform did I want to use? How will I reach enough people? Do I have enough people? Am I, all of the things? But it's like, no one taught me how to do that. So you have to really force yourself to think. So constantly you're pushing, you're learning, you're growing. I did not like marketing. I'm an HR person. My goal is to connect with people. Now I have to figure out how to do marketing, and I talk about marketing a lot just because it's the part of the business that you need to grow your business. If people don't know you exist, they won't buy your services. So people need to know who I am, and thankfully I have friends like you that are helping me with this. Is like a great opportunity. But again, there are so many ways to promote your message, and you have to figure out which one works. And so that's been kind of the big win for me. The other part of it, like I said, I was making a lot of money before, so I had a very steady paycheck. I knew how much money I was going to have every single week. New York City is a very expensive place to live. So now it's all on me to make sure that I am making enough money to pay my rent, to pay my expenses, to live a life, to travel. We've got travel coming up, and so there's so many things that are as an adult, as an individual, that you want to think about. I also don't want to be in a situation where I don't have enough money to, like, live the kind of life. Like, I didn't do this to, like, take a step back. I did this to jump forward. So those are the uncertainties, but at the same time, every ounce of effort I put into this company, I see a reward for it. So it literally is all of I'm getting paid for what I do. And so as hard as I work, I get the payout.
Yeah, and the beauty about entrepreneurship is a lot of the things you do now, the reward you would see them later on. You don't necessarily see the reward immediately, and sometimes you never know how big the reward is. Which is
Yeah,
quite different from when you have like a paid job and then you know how much you're going to earn and all that. But for entrepreneurship, sometimes
yeah.
there's limitless opportunities right there. Mm. So from your experience though with working with professionals, what type of issues do you or what type of problems have you seen that professionals face when they're trying to switch careers? What are the major type of problems that you notice, of course, aside from the hassle of applying and all that, but from your view, are there like peculiar things that you've noticed over time that you know similar challenges that you've seen, especially this, executives face when they want to switch a career path?
Yeah, so switching careers is a very interesting part of the journey. And I'm glad that you brought this up, because this is one of the parts where I think people forget, or they don't understand how to demonstrate the value that they bring in this new realm or new industry or new position. And so a lot of the skills that we learn in each of our positions in our, even in entrepreneurship, we can take it forward in other positions. And we have to tell this story. So how do you tell this story that says, hey, I've done this my entire life, but all of this makes me a great X, and here's why, right? And so it's one of those things is, again, what happens is the analogy I always use is you're in the eye of the storm, right? So you're kind of in it, and you're not able to see outside. And so for me, it's like, oh, you've done this. Oh, this is perfect for that. This is exactly the same. This is the kind of skills that they're looking for, right? When we read a job description, understanding how to bridge that gap, it's always about telling the strongest story. So how do you do that?
So usually they're not able to tell their stories properly. I think if I'm getting you, that's one of the key things, the inability for them to actually tell the story the proper way in order for them to switch to the career that they really want.
Yeah, because I think what happens is we are so proud of the work that we've done, and we're almost married to all of the responsibilities we have listed on our resume. But guess what? The person who's reading your resume doesn't care. They want to know if you can do this job. But you're like, I'm so proud of it. I get it. But I made the same mistake. I used to do legal, I used to do this. They don't care about that stuff. It's great once you're inside, but for your resume, they actually only want to know about the things that are most relevant to their job. And so telling that story is important. So that's really, yeah, you get it. You totally understand.
Yeah. So, but do you also help? Because I'm thinking, some people, aside from maybe they want to switch career from being a career person to entrepreneurship. Does that fit into the picture of what you do? Maybe someone who wants to switch to being an entrepreneur. I'm just, this is a random question here.
No, I think it's I think part of my coaching, yeah, I think there I have a lot of tools. I've gotten a bunch of certifications. And so in that situation, it would be more doing a deep discovery to really figure out not only um, is this the right path for you, but what part of the entrepreneur journey, what kind of company do you want to have, like where do you see yourself, are you really committed? I think, again, I have deep insight from my own perspective. I've been thinking about doing this for 8 or 9 years, maybe my whole life, but really I've been wanting to do this for 8 or 9 years. And it took me 8 or 9 years to be strong enough and to be confident enough and to really have that right idea. And 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 so I think, yeah, I would love to be able to coach people and talk about, again, through perspective, through dialogue, are you really committed to taking this step?
Oh, okay, makes sense. Can you hear me now? Is it the?
Yep.
Okay, yeah. So that makes sense. Well, Rosie, I want us to switch a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about personal development. I know we've talked about your company, which we could talk over and over and some more about it. But I'm curious to know, because I know for every career person or entrepreneur like you are now, we all face challenges. Whether it's in our work, personal lives, whatever the case is. From your own perspective, how have you been able to manage, now is challenges generally, in your life, especially for those that are out there, because, I'm very big on personal development, and I'm one of those people that believes that, whatever we want to achieve, you can never achieve more than how much personally developed that you are. So it's very important that we develop ourselves. So how, do you have any tips for us, or what, that help you, to get over those tough days, some of the things that, help you, to be able to do the things you do. So in terms from the angle of personal development, just if you want to speak to that.
Yeah, so I think one of the things that I've been focusing on my entire life is developing my personal sense of self. So I think, and what I mean by that is through people like you. So when I listen to what you speak about on your various channels, you provide a lot of advice and a lot of really great nuggets of information. And so taking that and then applying it to myself, right? I think one, we have access to too much information, so sometimes we have to like not listen to everything. But when we do hear something that is very important, like stopping and thinking, how does it apply to me? And I think in entrepreneurship in particular, but I think even as a career person, you need to really build a sense of self, a strong sense of confidence in you, a belief in something greater than you that you can pull or go into whenever you're having a bad day. So I'll tell you. So for me, when I'm getting scared or if I'm doubting myself, I know I have to reach back into that treasure chest of belief that I have in me. And that doesn't come without developing. I wasn't born with this belief. I had to work on it. I also have had to think about all the good things that have happened after the bad things, right? So if something bad happens to you, what happens after? Are you focusing on just the bad stuff, or are you focusing on the good that came after? Because oftentimes what happens is something bad comes out of something bad, right? You run out of money, you break up with your partner, something, right? Something bad happens. But what comes after? And usually what comes after is growth, a lesson, some valuable information that you didn't know, right? A mistake, like we talk about, you make a mistake and then you learn and then you don't repeat that mistake. So what is the value that came from that? And so that is really where I've been focusing on a lot all of my life, and to think, wow, you know what? Last time I was in this situation, I did make it. I did find a way through. I did have friends like you who gave me a piece of information that actually made me realize I could do it. So I think that's part of it. Also community, which I know you talk about a lot too, but having a good community around you that supports you, I think is really important as well.
Thank you so much, and thank you for the kind words of it's those types of words that make me continue to do what I do. So I appreciate that. Um, and like you said, I think it's just important because we actually do grow from the tough times. So, and I think that's what I got from you saying, when it gets bad, eventually there's growth afterwards, which we don't grow from the simple things, we grow from the difficult things, which is
Yeah.
actually so interesting. So yeah, and the reason why I asked that was because generally, I see, and even, all around when I travel, there's people out there, there's always people worrying about one thing or the other. And overall, you realize that, people worry about things that, you don't necessarily have to see the solution immediately. But, one way or the other, just taking the first step, trying to do something to correct whatever the worry is, just taking those little steps, little by little, eventually, gets you, to the promised land or whatever. And on the other side of it, for me, I believe everything has two sides. When something bad is happening, there's always a good side to it. When something good is happening, there's a bad side to it. But most times we don't see the bad, or we don't see the good. So for me, I just internalize it. If something bad happens, I'm there looking for the good of it. Even if I can't find it, I know it's somewhere around. So thank you for sharing that, Rosie. I don't know if it's to you. I know you're big on books and you listen to. I think you were the first person I know that went to a Tony Robbins
Yeah.
event. I remember. So do you still listen to Tony Robbins often?
Um, Sometimes not as much. I mean, I have done a couple of his events, but I've obviously, like, now the market is saturated with a lot of people. But the Tony Robbins thing, I think, really taught me to push through fear. That fear is normal. We all have it. It doesn't matter if you're Donald Trump, if you're Babatunde, if you're Rosie. We all have fear in us, and it's a human trait. And so he really talks about, what do you do with that fear, and how do you get out of it in that immediate, like when you're feeling fearful, the best way to do it is to change your state, right? So like, get up and move. So that's one of the things. And so over the years, I've taken, like I said, a lot of his courses. I have listened to a lot of his stuff, that now I think I've graduated above it. Sometimes I still need it. Now, I mean, I've been listening to Alex Hermosi, Gary Vee, I mean, these are more business people, and just a ton. And then there's a ton of other people that I'm just listening to on a constant basis that help me get motivated, to help me drive, to help me push, to also help me believe in myself. So I could list you 100 different Instagram people that I follow, and it's again filling your cup with really good, powerful. Even sometimes, Baba, I listen to some of your stuff, little like clips that you have, and sometimes it's just enough to. It doesn't matter who it is. You don't have to be this big, powerful person. But even someone like when you say stuff, sometimes I listen to it and I'm like, wow, that makes so much sense because you've lived such a great life and you've done such great things. And I think it's really important to look at people like you and say, wow, he did it, what can I learn from him? So it's not just people like Tony Robbins who are obviously exceptional and have a multi-billion dollar industry or companies, but the rest of us, and obviously you're on a different level even from me, but at the same time you have so much value that you bring, and I listen to all of it.
Thank you so much again. What can I say? Coming from you, I appreciate that a lot. Uh, well, so Rosie, what as we wrap up, I still wanna talk about briefly, and it's about the leadership because I know you do a lot of like leadership training, leadership coaching. What's just to get an idea, and maybe I'm going to be enrolling in a leadership training too. But what's it about? What's how is that? How is the leadership training like? I'm just thinking from the angle of, let's say, I want to enroll in a leadership program with your company. What do I expect to get, and how does that work?
So the leadership training is about deep discovery. It's not about me, it's about you in its entire form, right? So I have a bunch of tools that are designed to help you understand who you are, the value that you bring to the table, the values that you hold. So really getting you aware of the kind of leader you want to be and the kind of leader you are today and what you aspire to be. So there's a lot of tools that I have that we use. It's a lot of you talking and me kind of probing and pushing and coaching you through some of those mental blocks, those old stories, those old tapes of who you think you are versus who you want to be. And so when you talk about a particular scenario, you talk about a situation that you're in, let's practice modeling the kind of behavior that you want to exude in that situation. So again, I've had a coach. Well, I haven't mentioned this yet, but I've had a coach in my life since 2013, like constantly. I've never not had somebody coaching me, because sometimes what happens is you get in your own head, or you can't see beyond the, like, the two, maybe a meter in front of you. And so having a coach helps you see beyond the horizon, or at least to the horizon. And so I've always had that. They've helped me, they've pushed me. The reason why I'm here, I think, today is because I've had really good coaches who, when I said something, they made me commit to it and follow through and keep up with the actions that supported what I actually ultimately desired, which was to live in the United States, but live in New York City.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah, I think one way or the other, we all need coaches. We all need mentors and people who can guide us. And you said something very important. There are times when, and you don't even know it. You just, we're just viewing things in just one way, and we think we are seeing everything. And until someone else says, "Hey, why not look in this direction?" And you wonder, oh, why have I not even thought about this all the while? So I absolutely agree with you. It's so important. I have a few mentors here and there, and I think it's and indirectly too. Like, just like you said, sometimes when we speak to our friends and each other. There are just some of us that we listen to ourselves, and we have all these connections, and then we learn from each other. So for me, it's been a journey of friends that have been sort of friends and mentors, confidants, and all that stuff. And most importantly, I try as much as possible to be around those that I know will always give you the right feedback, or let me say the good feedback, because a
Yeah,
lot of people think a good feedback is when someone tells you something nice about what you've done. But I say a good feedback is someone who tells you something that can improve what you've done, whether good or bad. Yeah. So,
that's
but
great advice.
yeah, but
Yeah.
a lot of people see it differently. So I just wanted to say that. So Rosie, I know, we could talk forever. And there's still a bunch of things I want to ask, but I think we are still going to have this conversation again. I am really, really, really looking forward to you coming on back. But just as we wrap up, there's a usual tradition where the last guest writes an advice for the next guest. So I have an advice that was, you know, written down by the last guest, and you're also going to write, but you're not here with me, so maybe you can text me,
Yeah.
the advice for the
Okay.
next guest. And I think you probably know the person who wrote this one. It's Maite Azarov, and I know you probably know her. So
Yes,
she
I
says,
do. Yes.
knowing yourself is one of the most powerful things you can do. That's our advice. That knowing yourself is one of the most powerful things you can do, and I think it resonates well with our conversation today because major one of the major things I've got from you and your journey is the fact that you've grown to the space where you know who you are, you know what you want, and now you know how you're going to get what you want, which is very, very key because many of us just know what we want, but then we're wondering how are we going to become that person that we want to become. So that's what she said. So I look forward to your own advice for the next guest. And as we wrap up, I don't know if there's any final words that you want, for the audience, maybe something, you want that person out there who is going to see this and yeah, maybe it could be on the career path, it could be in personal development, just, any final words you want, people to go on with.
Yeah. So, I mean, well, first, I would love to say thank you so much for this opportunity. This has been great. It's so nice to be able to see you and speak to you and have this conversation. I think it's more conversations like this that really allow us to grow and learn, right? Because again, one of the big things that I've been fortunate is having great people in my life, like you being one of them, who's like a dear friend, even though we haven't seen each other in so long. But just to be able to have those kind of deep friendships and good people in your life. And I think one of the things that I would love to leave the viewers of this with is having good people in your life is very, very important. I think life is tough and life is hard, but having friends, having family that can support you, that actually are doing good things, that can inspire you, right? Like, I mean, honestly, like, and not to, I'm not saying this to say this, but you've always been a great positive inspiration in my life because you're a very grounded individual, and I've never seen you mad. I've never seen things, but like seeing that kind of great energy that you bring to our environment is something that I yearn for, and I think it's really important. And all of our friends collectively, like, we made such a great team together, but I think it was really the power of our community that allows me to be here today, because I know that I have a really strong foundation of friends and people who love me and care about me. And so I wish everybody has something of that magnitude or greater.
Wow. Well, there's no better way for us to end this. Well, I guess the audience, they're hearing us out there. Please make good friends and, surround yourself with the right type of people. And I think the sky will be the limit. So, Rosie, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure for me. It's an honor for me to have you on and, all the wonderful things you say. I guess you've put me on the spot. Now we have to keep doing better and doing better. So thank you so much. And I appreciate you. And I'm sure we are still going to be talking some more very, very soon. Mm.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
All right, then take care of you and have a wonderful, wonderful day ahead of you. So, guys, this is the closing of today's conversation with Rosey Singh. It's been an amazing conversation with her, and we'll be putting some links in the description. For certain things, some of the people that she likes to listen to, so that we can also benefit from some of where she gets all this amazing knowledge and amazing things from. So I wish you all a wonderful day ahead and a wonderful week. And Rosie, thank you. Take care.
Thank you.